What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new video. Today we're in Beloit, Wisconsin. This is Oakwood Cemetery. It's a very historic cemetery, a lot of interesting people here, but today we're here to talk about one person specifically. Now, if you're new to the channel, I am a very big history nerd, and one of the things that's always fascinated me is the Titanic. So today we're going to visit the final resting place of a Titanic victim, which is pretty neat and very interesting because there's only a handful of them that have burial locations, and specifically not very many that are in the United States. So I'm going to tell you the story about this, and we're going to walk over and we're going to visit the gravesite. Now, the victim's name was Albert Wirz. He was 27 years old and he was from Switzerland. He was a farmer. He was born in 1884, and his mother died when he was 5 years old. His father remarried, and the younger sister of his father's new wife emigrated and went to Beloit, Wisconsin. And by all accounts, Albert was kind of itching to start a new life and get out of Switzerland, and he decided to ask his aunt in Beloit to look for a job for him, and she secured him a job working as a machine operator. Now, I should also say that Albert's father and his stepmother were very reluctant about him sailing to America because they feared that there would be a terrible accident. And obviously they were right, but nobody knew that at the time. Now, Albert ended up buying a third-class ticket from an agent for 344 Swiss francs. And I'm not really sure what the conversion of that is now, but Titanic then was the grandest ship that had ever been built, and they've said that it was unsinkable. Everybody was very excited for its maiden voyage. Albert, he boarded the Titanic in Southampton as a third-class passenger, and he shared cabin 58 on the F deck. Now, he shared his cabin with 5 other people. It was a friend of his named Anton Kink and his family that were taking the Titanic overseas also. Now, one of the neatest things about this is that when Albert's body was found, his original ticket for the Titanic was found in his belongings, and I'll put an image of that right in this video here. Now, this is the grave here. It's beautifully marked, but going back, now, as you guys know, the Titanic struck an iceberg about 11:40 p.m. on Sunday evening, April 14th of 1912. Most passengers barely noticed the collision, as many of them had already went to bed. But on the G deck, near where Albert and his friends were staying, they felt the impact, and they could tell something wasn't quite right. Now, Albert's friend Anton Kink and his brother rushed to the stern of the ship, where they rejoined his wife and daughter, and they made their way onto the boat deck, where they entered Lifeboat 2, where women and children were being put on first. Now, Anton might have died, but he was saved when he jumped onto the lifeboat when his wife and daughter cried out for him, but Albert wasn't so lucky. Now, it was only a few hours later than that the Titanic sunk, and it claimed over 1,500 lives, which made it one of the biggest tragedies that had happened. And Anton's cabin mates were all lost, including Albert. Now, Albert's body was found on April 24th, 10 days after the disaster. He was identified and assigned number 131 by the ship Mackay Bennett, which was employed by the White Star Line, same line as Titanic, and they were out to search for and retrieve victims of the sinking. Now, there was a record kept as to what was found on Albert's body. It said that he had 2 watches, a brass chain, 1 ink pot, a matchbox, a knife, memo book, insurance book, passport, keys, an empty purse, and a purse containing 36 cents. Now, after all this was done, his body was transferred back to Beloit, right here where we're at, and it arrived here on May 11th in 1912, and he was buried here in Beloit. Now, this again is Oakwood Cemetery, and he was laid to rest here officially May 12th of 1912. His grave was unmarked until September of 1996 because his family did not have the money to put a memorial in here. So he was unmarked here for almost 85 years. Now, his family couldn't afford to put a proper memorial here, which is kind of sad if you think about it. but he ended up getting this marked gravesite with the help of the Swiss Titanic Society mixed with the Beloit Historical Society. Now, of those lost in the Titanic sinking, only 336 bodies were ever recovered, and of those, over 100 of them were buried at sea. Now, the rest of them were taken to Halifax, where most of them were buried outside of Halifax in a cemetery under a kind of a uniformed marble marker. Only 50 of the victims were buried outside of Halifax, and only 3 of them are in Wisconsin. The other 2 are buried in Green Bay and Milwaukee. So there's not very many of them out there that you can visit the graves of, which makes this all that more of an interesting location. Now, personally, I'm really glad that they got a proper memorial here for him. But it really is a fascinating place to come and visit if you ever get the chance. But that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you're curious about other people in this cemetery, a while back I also did a video on the guy who was the inspiration for Indiana Jones, who was also buried here. His name was Roy Andrew Chapman. If you're interested in that story, it is on my channel. I posted it, I believe, last fall. But it's an interesting story, and there's a lot of interesting people in this cemetery and all the other places that we visit. So be sure to check out my other videos. If this is your first time here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because there's all kinds of stuff always coming out. But thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this interesting and maybe even learned a little something from it. But thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.